This is the Asus VivoBook S14. If you remember, then we did see the previous generation VivoBook S series both in Intel and Qualcomm format last year. However, this year we have the VivoBook S series in the 14-inch form factor, a brand new chip and some new changes as well. So let's take a look at what this 90,000 rupees laptop has on offer and whether it's worth your money or not. First off, we have the Cinebench R23, in which the laptop scored around 16,618 points in multi-core test and 2,047 points in single-core test. And during a continuous throttle test, the laptop scored around 15,370 in multi-core and 2,045 in single-core test, which are very good numbers. For comparison, here's how the laptop performs in Cinebench 2024, and right off the bat, we can see that the Core Ultra 7 255H beats the 10-core M4 in MacBook Air in multi-core test, but it loses to the MacBook Pro in the same multi-core test as well. Also worth noting is that although the single-core performance of the Core Ultra 7 255H is quite good, the single-core performance of the Apple M4 chip is simply next level. And single core performance is something which comes into play a lot in your daily routine. For instance, when you're using a web browser, you're dependent on single core performance. Similarly, when running CPU bound games like GTA 5, you are also dependent on how well your CPU core performs. And last but not the least, your CPU's single core performance determines how snappy your computer feels. And like I said, this chip and this laptop have good single core performance and hence have no trouble doing all these tasks. But the performance analysis doesn't just end there, because in terms of CPU package power at its maximum, the laptop only sips around 35 watts. And when doing stuff like browsing, web watching or watching YouTube, the laptop only sips around 15 watts. Moreover, at max load, the average CPU package temperature remains around 77 degrees. Meanwhile, under normal usage, the temperature remains just around 55 degrees. And after 30 minutes of running a game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the surface temperature of the laptop looks around to be 35 or 36 degrees on average. And speaking of games, here's how the laptop performs in some of the games I tested at 1080p low settings. Now the iGPU in the 255H is from the Alchemist range, which sits lower than the Intel's Battlemage iGPU, which powers the Lunar Lake CPUs. And you can see these results reflected in Geekbench 6 GPU test, where the 258V takes lead over the 255H, while the M4 chip takes the lead once again. But since not many popular titles are supported on Mac, so there is no comparison when it comes to real-world performance. And as for the actual productivity softwares like DaVinci Resolve, here's how much time it took to render a 4K video. This happens because the 255H in the VivoBook has a weaker iGPU compared to the 226V in the Galaxy Book 5 Pro. Moreover, in terms of SSD performance as well, the laptop scored really well. And lastly, in terms of battery life, here's how much the laptop lasts during different normal use cases. It is still not more than some of the Lunar Lake laptops that I've tested recently, but objectively, it should be enough to get you through your workday. So that wraps up the performance section, and with that, let's see whether this laptop's design, display and build quality are up to the mark or not. So the laptop's top lid is made of metal and the deck area is made of polycarbonate. Now, plastic may have been used in the construction of this laptop, but it feels very solid and sort of premium to touch as well. Now, because of plastic, you will notice flex in this laptop, and it is quite apparent, especially right above and adjacent to the touchpad area. Surprisingly, the touchpad itself feels like it has really good quality though. It is of a mechanical type, but it is installed with high precision. Also, the size of the touchpad is also on the larger side, which is again very nice. The keyboard also has a good amount of key travel, and because of it, the keys have a good pushback whenever you press them. And as a result, overall, the keyboard feels very comfortable to type on. As for the hinge, I must say that it is very smooth and it is very easy to lift the lid of the laptop with just a single hand without any issues. Now you'll also notice that the top bezel on the laptop is thicker than the bezels on the left or the right. Usually the three sides are of the same thickness, but this time there's a big infrared sensor on the top over here, so it can easily detect you even when you are in the dark. So that's a neat addition, and if you don't want it to, then there's a physical camera shutter button as well for complete privacy. In terms of I/O, the laptop gets a solid score for versatility and modern connectivity. It features two USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-C ports with DisplayPort 1.2 and Power Delivery 3.0. It also gets a standard HDMI 1.4 port, one USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A port, and a combo audio jack on the left side and one USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A port on the right side. As for the display, I have to say that it is really not that good. Firstly, let me talk about the display specs. The display is a FHD Plus display with a max resolution of 1200p and 60Hz max refresh rate. It has a peak brightness of around 345 nits, which is very good. The screen is also anti-reflective and has a matte finish to it, so using it around the office and under harsh lights is very easy. However, the viewing angles are not so good. And what's also not good is the sRGB color space coverage, which is just 52.7%, which is one of the lowest we have tested of any recent laptops. Similarly, the DCI P3 color space coverage is 42.2%, which is again not so good. And lastly, the NTSC color space coverage too is just 46.2%. Now, even in terms of color accuracy, what you have is just a very mediocre display because of an average delta E value of just 4.9. So overall, this display is not suitable for creating any kind of content, and whatever content you will end up watching on it will also look very inaccurate in terms of color accuracy. And lastly, the speakers are not anything great either. They are just serviceable at best, and you can barely hear them if you are in a noisy office. So, should you buy this laptop? Let's discuss. So, ASUS's genius idea to make a laptop with great durable chassis, good thermals, and a new powerful and efficient CPU is good, but incomplete in its execution. While the laptop does fare well on all these fronts, it really fails in terms of display quality and speaker quality. Although the extra features like the IR camera, a healthy I/O port selection, a good keyboard and touchpad combination, and decently good battery life does make a case for this laptop, but at this point in 2025, you can get a variety of laptops well under this price range that offers similar performance. For example, for 81,990 rupees, you can get the last generation VivoBook S15 OLED with a 2.8K OLED display, Core i9-3900H and 16GB RAM. Similarly, for 91,900, you can get the M4 MacBook Air, which has much better performance and much better display and speakers as well. And lastly, for 75,990, you can get the Lenovo Yogo Slim 7i, featuring the Intel Core Ultra 7, 16GB RAM, 512GB SSD and an OLED display. So at this current point of around 90,000 rupees, I don't think that this version of the Asus VivoBook S14 is worth buying. If its price falls to around 70k, then yeah, I can see this thing becoming a good general purpose thin and light laptop, but for now, I think there are other options that will offer better value. Thank you so much for watching. This is me, Yatnesh Dubey, and I will see you guys next time.